always have. We've heard it so much. It's an adage. We've heard it so much that we're not even sure if we understand the meaning. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Today we're going to be rocking a lot of people's table because we want to ensure that we stay alive, healthy, and enjoy that lovely wealth. Wealth, I didn't say money. Wealth is a whole lot of things. Now, keeping healthy, it's a whole thing altogether. Sometimes unimaginable things. Sometimes things we never even thought about. Well, Elizabeth is just going to be sitting down here just like you are sitting down in your house and getting this justice out from my lovely people. When I say lovely people, I have the lady who is actually black, but I want to sing Yellow Lady. That's a lady in red. This one is lady in yellow.
No, I'm a lady in yellow today.
Okay.
Morning, everybody. It's good to be here. My name is Divan Mom.
All right, and then we have the medical expert here seated with us. Is a familiar face in the house, but not the house of conversation. So, Dr. Chris, I'll let you do your own introduction.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Dr. Chris Tufa Otabo. I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
All right, now you've seen and heard all that we represent. We're going to go a little break now. Take a little break, and when we come back, we'll start at the beginning of the discussion.
When there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, the difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take his pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know.
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And the other one said, Auntie, it's not about me, it's about the guys. They're not ready to marry.
Yes. If she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, you know, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me, remove that picture. There was a day I got tired of all that and I said,
It is conversation where we talk. We talk about anything under the earth or under heaven here on earth. And today we want to talk about something that concerns all of us. You know, when COVID-19 was announced and we got to see it, a lot of us have had a relationship with it. By the way, Dr. Tabo is actually a survivor.
Well, I don't like the word survivor. I overcame COVID.
Okay, you overcame COVID.
Many months ago.
Oh, okay.
oh my God. You know how they always keep saying, I don't know anybody who has COVID. I've been taking the precautions, but in all honesty, this is the first time I'll meet, you know, like one-on-one, somebody who will admit that
There's no big deal. There's no big deal about COVID. I had my isolation, came out of it, and move on. So COVID-19 is not a big deal.
You know, without meaning to take us a little bit back, but a lot of people now, she just said she hasn't seen before. In their mind, they'll be wondering, what was the experience like?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was not the very serious type. Maybe because I don't have underlying symptoms, but I had fever, cough, body ache, which lasted for a few days. And after that, once I started having the symptoms, I knew that that was it. So I went for the test and it was positive. Interestingly, I got a call from someone in another hospital and not mine. And when I got this, they told me about the symptoms. I said, let me come and see you there. So when I saw the patient, I said, this looks like COVID. Please take this patient to National Hospital. And so I left. And I guess that's most likely the contact. And once 2 days after, I noticed changes. So I just started isolating. I avoided everybody. And it happened to be it. So we are soldiers on the battle line, and it's expected. And the truth is that almost everybody will eventually get COVID. It's just that only a few people will succumb because the mortality rate is very low and the severity rate is also low. So it's just like common cold, for instance. Almost everybody will get common cold, but just a small percentage will die. So the people that should be careful are those with underlying medical conditions that are not properly addressed and the elderly. But apart from that, this COVID is likely to go around. Trust me. And forget about the figures that you see from NCDC. Based on my own estimation, we have more than 20 times the number of cases.
20 times?
Yeah, yes, based on my own estimation. We have more than 20 times the number of cases that have been identified. And if that is the case, and then you have that number of people who have died, that means that the mortality rate is far lower than people think.
This is are you a little taken aback?
Yeah, not necessarily. I kind of agree with him because I know of people who are currently battling COVID-19 and are in isolation. I also know that my cousin, who is in the health sector, recently just came out of isolation as a result of exposure. Yeah, but she didn't contract it. Then another close family member is also in isolation because when her brother was ill, he was suspected to maybe have COVID. So the frequency with which even people around me are admitting that, oh, I was exposed, or I know somebody who, means that it might be a little more prevalent than NCDC has told us. Maybe, I don't know, it could be deliberate not to throw the nation into a panic. Or it could be that they have
That people
limitation.
are not presenting.
Yeah, I have.
Because
I have,
if they don't present, you
yes.
can't really take care
There are
of
about 5 of my colleagues who told me that I think I had COVID, but I didn't just want to bother myself.
Are you serious?
Yes, I fell ill. These were the symptoms, exactly the same things I had. And soon after it started with them, it got to their wives and some of their children.
Just like common cold.
Yes, exactly the same severity, exactly the same symptoms. And they said, look, I can tell you for sure that I had COVID, even though I didn't test. I had 3 of my colleagues like that. And then what about majority of Nigerians who will say if I go to the hospital, they will label me as COVID and they will quarantine me, take away my rights. So there's this fear. So they just manage at home. What about the bike riders and laborers who have the symptoms and they are going to chemists to buy malaria medicine? They treat malaria for 3 weeks and keep treating until the COVID will leave them alone, because eventually the COVID will disappear because majority of people will survive with or without treatment. So the reality is dawning on us. I think that we have far more people who have gone through this and they are out on the other side and they've gone back to their business. But what we are concerned about is the small number who would not escape it. That those who have underlying medical condition, the elderly, and that's for the sake of those people, we must take the precautions so that we don't expose them.
All right. Aside from COVID, I know there are a whole lot of things killing people as we speak, and a lot of times those things could have been prevented if we came out on time to watch it. Generally, I think I want to start with you, Doctor. When we talk about health, keeping good track of our health, what does it mean?
Okay. Basically, there are 2 factors that determine health. 1 is genetics and 2 is environment. These are broad perspectives. Genetic means that there are some genes that you inherited. Whether you do anything or not, you're going to come down with the disease when the time is ripe. Whether from childhood or there are many that manifest in adulthood. For instance, hypertension, essential hypertension. If your parents are hypertensive, there's a very high chance that you will be hypertensive. It's in the gene. The same thing with diabetes, the same thing with some other cardiovascular diseases. This genetics, sickle cell disease, is you inherit the genes. Both parents may be healthy, but if you get the gene, you will get it. So some genetic diseases are dominant, others are recessive. By recessive, it means you need two to have it. That's one. Then the second broad heading is environment. That means every other thing that interplay between the environment and yourself. The food you eat, your exercise, the places you go, the climatic condition, pollution, and so on and so forth. Even your work lifestyle. All those things also have impact on health. Once you understand these two broad things, you now begin to see how to control the factors that you can control. Like for instance, for diabetics, if you know that you have the gene for diabetes, you need to watch out, and be more careful the way the lifestyle you live. Otherwise, the environmental factor can also interplay with the genetic factor and make you vulnerable earlier than normal, or even make it more serious. So if you know that you have diabetes in your gene, you make sure you do exercises, you make sure that you control what you eat, you avoid smoking, you avoid alcohol, for instance. In the same thing with hypertension. If you know that there's hypertension in your gene, you have to check out and make sure that you do all the things that doctor says to do and avoid all the things doctor says to avoid you becoming hypertensive. For the environmental factors, the same thing. You exercise, you eat good diet. Now, for instance, let's take cancer. Cancer used to be very common in the West because of their diet. And then among the Orientals, like the Japanese, cancer was very low. But it was discovered that as people began to migrate from the East to the West, Japanese Americans, second, third generation Japanese American, it was discovered that the rate of cancer among those people was as high as the rate of cancer among the Caucasian Americans. So what has happened? The food they eat, their lifestyle has impacted on their health. So the type of food they used to eat and their lifestyle in Japan helps to reduce the incidence of cancer. So you see how environment has impact on the health. So, but by and large, in order to keep good health, we have to know our numbers and we have to understand how these factors interplay to determine our health. So if you smoke, people say smoke, it's said that smokers are liable to die young. That is not a cliche.
Not a joke.
It's not a cliche. It was even, the study was done among doctors. And then it was they observed doctors who were smoking and those who were not smoking. And they followed them for many years. And they discovered that quite a large chunk of doctors who were smoking died younger from cancer of the lungs, cancer of the throat, and other types of cancer than those who were not smoking. So, that's one of the biggest studies that confirm the impact of tobacco on our health. What about, and not just for cancer, tobacco affects wound healing, it affects so many things. What about alcohol? The same thing. Your liver is likely to go down fast if you are indulging alcohol, and so on and so forth. What about lack of exercise? You are predisposed to heart disease, you are predisposed to so many other conditions. So when you understand the role of these two things and you're able to keep track of your numbers, you go for medical checks regularly, and then you can be able to detect when something is just around the corner and you can push it away. Right. But if you are not, if you are complacent and you just neglect yourself, then it will come upon you as a thief in the night. Many times, many people, the way we know that they are diabetes is when they have become unconscious and they are in the hospital. Already complicated, and it's late by that time.
Doc, without meaning to cut you short, but I think you're scaring me a little bit. I don't want to be scared. Let me go back to my colleague here. Devan, do you think generally that Nigerians live a healthy lifestyle against the background of what he has presented?
I think compared to, let's say, a decade or two ago, I think compared to my parents' generation, I think our generation is doing a better job of staying healthy. For instance, during the lockdown, I noticed so many more people taking walks, early morning walks.
Yes, exercise. I saw that a lot.
Yeah, power walks, jogging and things like that. And the age range, it cuts across from young adults to middle-aged people and sometimes the elderly. That's not something that used to be common even 10 years ago, but you see that culture is coming up now. And then I think people are more careful with their diet now. I guess.
Really?
Yes, I think so. Especially women. Because women are always worried about weight and things like this. So you find, I think, among my acquaintances particularly, I find that they're more likely to be concerned about eating highly processed foods, opting instead for natural foods, going for salads, eating light at night. And so even if they don't have the technical details down pat, at least there's some effort being made, cutting down on alcohol. I can't remember the last time I saw somebody holding a stick of cigarette.
Yeah,
People
seriously.
are still, There was a time when it was actually posh
It was
to
a
be
fashion.
seen, it was cool. It's not cool anymore. And even people who smoke alternative stuff now, first of all, those things are illegal anyway, and they alter your mind state and so on. But even the people who are smoking these alternative stuff, you might find them maybe doing it openly at concerts or other such functions, but not just lounging. And when people want to smoke now, they go into a private place to do it. So I think that overall, people are making an extra effort to stay healthy than, let's say, a decade ago. But I still think that it's a journey that many people are on and could do with some improvement.
Well, from what you're saying, I just concluded, okay, Devon is keeping the right company. You have right-thinking people around you. Because I've also observed that a lot of people are doing things wrongly. Our young people now don't want to cook. That's the truth. The fast food centers are growing by the numbers, and they are not growing from feeding goats and cow. It's human beings, and the more these things are, springing up and succeeding, means that people are patronizing them. Pizza points, I'm not running business down for anybody anyway, but pizza points are increasing by the number, and they're making it even easier. Delivery people are everywhere. People are now ordering online, and it's being delivered in your home. In fact, it's fancy.
It's posh. It's more posh to eat pizza and ice cream than a little bit of samo with plenty of bitter leaf soup.
Thank you.
When you're talking to your friends, you can tell them how the pizza you ordered was 4-5 and it had mushrooms and all. I think it's silly. I think it's daft. I'm not saying that people should not indulge once in a while. But when you look at the reasoning behind it, we've become we're grooming a very shallow generation coming up behind us. And the point you have is true. And for me, I think the tragedy of it is some parents encourage it.
Thank you.
You're going for visiting day, you don't make a well-prepared home meal. You pass through one of these fast food places, take a whole bunch of donuts, cake, ice cream, Fanta, Coke, it's a status symbol thing most of the time.
What you're saying, I actually was a culprit at a point. When my children were in secondary school, I would always go to visits, and there will always be the rice, probably fried and stuff like that. I put a bit of meat pie, but the only local thing you get is the rice. The rest of them are all the stuff. So at a point, visiting day came. I wasn't able to go see them. I called my mom. I said, I'm not around. I'm not in town. Could you help me with visiting day? She was so excited. She went down, made very lovely afang soup with the correct pando, locally made, not the English pando. Made very nice local rice, with all the offals and all that. She took it to their school.
And they wouldn't have any of it.
Do you know, my phone kept banging. Everybody was eating that thing. They said, my children told me, next month, please, travel again. Let mom, grandma.
Oh, really?
Come.
I thought they would be so displeased.
No, they were very happy.
They
said I should travel again. Let grandma come so that you can give them.
I'm not completely trashing that. Children usually have a sweet tooth. And I think it's okay to... You can't put children on an adult regimen. Exactly. You must be a bit flexible. But when that dominates the menu, you find very young children battling things like obesity.
It's awful.
And you can tell that as they are picked up from school, they are passing through one fast food place before. It could also be as a result of very crazy schedules that parents have nowadays. You know, the schedules our parents of modern parents have are not as crazy as the one our parents back then had. But then overall, you begin to look at, in the long term, does the benefit outweigh the disadvantages? And I don't think so.
All right, Doctor, you mentioned something earlier when you were talking about checks, and I have always had that at the back of my mind. I don't want to believe that Nigerians have the culture of doing regular checks. You're in the medical field. If I'm wrong, correct me. But then, even if we have to do it, what are those checks? At what age do we begin to talk about medical checks for all of us?
Thank you. It's not uncommon for you to find people slumping and dying. It's very common. We see it among politicians, especially in National Assembly and some other, big billionaires. But for every one of those high-profile deaths, there are many that are not celebrated or not heard about. So the rate of sudden death has increased recently, in the last few years, and that's because people neglect their health over time. Okay, so as we get older, the changes occur in our bodies, and we must keep tabs of those changes. Otherwise, then sudden calamity can come upon anybody as a thief in the night. Not everybody, but it's a few or maybe a handful. Many times I'm in the hospital, colleagues in the offices of banks rush their colleague that have slumped, and some were able to save, others are brought in dead before they arrive. So we need to know our numbers. We need to check, first of all, general outlook. You check your blood level, you check your blood pressure, you check your pulse rates, because your blood pressure can tell a lot. If someone has hypertension, most times they will never know, because that's why we call it the silent killer. So every adult above the age of 30 should at least check his blood pressure once in 6 months. And then if you know that you have hypertension, you have to get a gadget, blood pressure monitoring equipment, that you check your blood pressure every day. I mean, it doesn't take 5 minutes to do that.
Every day?
Yes, every day. Yes. Then, of course, you check your body mass index to see if you are adding more weight than usual. Then if so, you get on the gym and see what you can do about your weight, because obesity has a lot of ramifications. It affects health in many ways. Okay. Then apart from that, there's cancer screening that are done. Like, for instance, the prostate-specific antigen. Prostate cancer is the commonest cancer in men. And what I notice about my patients...
That's the prostate?
Yes.
Okay.
What I notice about my patients, a lot of them just come one day and they either cannot pass urine or they are paralyzed in both legs. They can't walk. What has happened? The prostate cancer has spread, it has grown big, and it has burst the capsule, it has spread to the spinal cord.
Oh my God.
And once that happens, what you just give the fellow 6 months is gone.
Wow.
But if they were checking the prostate-specific antigen, it's a chemical that is normally produced by the prostate at very tiny level. But if there is a cancer, that level increases. The number is 0 to 4 nanogram per ml. But once you start seeing it rising, then the doctor will be restless until he finds out what's going on. And if it goes, say, around less than 20, you are still suspicious. Sometimes we need to go take a biopsy. But by the time it's going towards the 100 mark, then you're sure that this is cancer. And if you get it early, the prostate can be taken out and blocked, and then the man continues with his life.
Oh, really?
But yes, but if it's not found early...
Will that hamper fertility?
No, not necessarily. But
Not necessarily means that it's
not
possible.
necessarily, there are many options should there be complication. There are some complications that can result from the surgery, but there are ways to get around that. But I mean, when we are talking about life, we are not even going to be talking of fertility now, because it's not the man that is alive that would give birth or stuff like that. The same thing with breast cancer. We will say that women above 40 should have a mammography done, especially if there is a family history of cancer.
How many times a year, or how many times in 2 years?
For people whose first degree relative had cancer, like sister or mom or grandmom, it should be once every year. Mm-hmm. But for the general population, for around the age of 40, once in 2 years is fine. But your family physician or the expert will advise you when you are due next. The same thing with cancer of the cervix. Cancer of the cervix is the biggest killer of women in Nigeria. But women don't know. You find a woman who has gone through menopause coming back and telling you at 56 that I've started my menstruation again.
Wow.
So it's ignorance, because they don't know. That woman has a cancer of the cervix until proven otherwise. But it could have been prevented by just taking a swab, the pap smear, once a year. And then you look at it under the microscope. There are pre-cancerous conditions that you see. All you need is just burn it off with chemicals, and that's the end, then follow up. But if they don't know, they just carry on. Every woman of reproductive age should have a pap smear done from, adulthood. So
when you say adulthood, is it from 16? Is it from 20? When should we begin to talk about pap smear?
Okay, so there are different, I think 30 years and above,
okay.
35, yes. But the highest risk is anything from 40, both pap smear and mammography. So there are many other cancer screenings that are done. Then you also check the state of your heart. You want to know what's going on. As we get older, especially if we have had chronic conditions, it impacts on the heart. You want to do your ECG. Sometimes you need to do an echocardiography to know, okay, am I really well? Because some of these things that come up suddenly, it doesn't come up one day. Blood sugar, blood cholesterol, these are things that can plug the vessels that can compromise the heart or the brain. Because if you have high blood pressure combined with diabetes and high cholesterol, I can assure you there's more than 80% chance that the person will either have a stroke or a cardiac arrest. Yeah, because when the blood vessels become abnormal, diabetes makes the blood vessels abnormal, hypertension makes it abnormal, cholesterol blocks it. At the end of the day, you are at risk. If that vessel gets blocked in the brain, it leads to a stroke. If it gets blocked in the heart, because the heart itself, even though it pushes blood to the rest of the body, it also needs its own blood supply through the coronary arteries. If that artery is blocked, the heart muscle cannot do its work of pumping. And then that's when you say the fellow has a cardiac arrest. And then so there are risk factors for that. And if you follow through, you will be able to prevent it to a very large extent. So there are many things to check.
Right.
I have a question for the doctor.
Yeah.
What does the prostate gland do?
The prostate gland produces prostate fluid that helps to lubricate the semen.
Oh, okay.
And is fertility, but it's not absolutely important, especially for men, because the men who have prostate cancer, they are not young men.
Yeah,
Most of them are done with their family.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the reason I was asking if it impacts fertility in any way is that it could be a good motivation to get people to go and get tested. But
when you say it does not affect, prostate surgery, for instance, will not affect sexual intercourse.
Okay.
But if the surgery is done, sometimes instead of ejaculating out, it can go into the bladder. Yes, so that can be a complication, but not in all cases.
Okay.
Yes, but it doesn't have anything to do with sexual performance, but it might lead to infertility. Yes, but the people that will have major concerns...
What goes back to the bladder? How will you expel it? I mean,
yes, when the man passes urine, you find the urine looking cloudy.
Oh.
Yes, but that's in some cases. It's a possible complication, but not in all cases. Yes, but the truth is, most people who will have such issues, they are past
ordinarily have passed.
They are elderly.
And talking of obesity, I've been having issues with my right knee. Yeah, I'm not going to use this opportunity to
You are
try and
not
get
obese.
a free diagnosis. But when I went to hospital, I was told to lose 5 kilos. So, and this is the biggest I've ever been in my life, and I'm enjoying it. So I was
And
like,
they're
okay,
asking you to lose again.
I'm going to have to shed all my
This is
beautiful
unfair.
weight because of a bad knee. So anyway, I went back home, did what I could, went back to hospital, and weighed 7 kg more than I was.
You actually added.
I was like, okay, now I understand what people go through when they're talking of trying to shed weight and all this kind of thing. Because I did put in effort, I was taking
And it wasn't
mostly
working.
water, tea, and all this, so that I wouldn't be too hungry. And I went back and I was 7 more kilos.
All right.
That can be explained.
It's explainable.
what
I mean,
happened?
no, doctor will get to explain that, but let's quickly take a break. When we come back, you speak on that, and we notice lots of messages coming. We will be interacting with you thereafter.
When I went.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
We're still on conversation, and Devon started a conversation that got us interested, quite amused before we took the break. You said it was your village people, right?
It's not me that said. I said when I told my friends that this was what happened, they said my village people were out to get me. So I said, I just came. It's not been too long that I was running all over the place in the village for campaigns. So maybe I stepped on the wrong toes. They've decided to inflict me with obesity or something.
Okay, so what you are saying is you were told to lose 5 kg and you made several attempts, and in the process you added.
Yes.
You added 7 kg.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not your village people. Let me explain what was going on. And this is a problem with many women. After so much effort, they jump on the scale and find out that they have not moved an inch, or if anything, they have added. The reason is because they have altered their normal routine in terms of intake and output, and they starve themselves. Okay. And then when they starve themselves to a level, all the hormones are produced, all the stress hormones. By the time they want to eat, they eat double what they are supposed to be eating. And so the propensity to consume more is like when you fast normally. You think, I should lose weight. But the truth is that at the end of the day, you will add weight because you would have eaten more than what you would eat normally. So that's what was responsible for you adding weight rather than losing it.
All right, let's quickly take some messages. Good morning, producer. My name is James Atile, right now in Boko, Benue State. I appreciate the doctor for telling us the truth. Our people here don't care about observing NCDC protocol. You guys are doing a good job. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next one. Hello, good morning. Good program. Keep it up. Did you know that despite the awareness of an increase in COVID cases, many people around me still don't believe that COVID-19 is real? I don't just know how to make them believe and take caution. Anyway, my dear, I don't know where you are writing in from, but be careful with yourself. If you have people around you that are not, in sync, you better cover yourself. Good morning. Please, I want to know if someone has hypertension, for how long can one take treatment? Can it be cured completely? Is it manageable or is it treatable and all that? Doctor, that's your call. But let's take one more before you go to that. My name is Omena from Delta State. I am bothered about this and I want to know if there is any negative effect of using groundnut oil more than one time. Okay, I guess what she means is that when you fry.
Okay, when you fry and then you reuse it to prepare another meal.
Oh, okay, so doctor, let's leave
Okay,
it.
so for the hypertension, once hypertension is diagnosed, you have to keep tab of your blood pressure and be on top of it for life. Whether your blood pressure is appearing normal or not, you have to be checking. What I find many people do, maybe they had some issues not relating to the blood pressure and then they came to the hospital as a routine, they take their blood pressure and they see that it's high. Something is done at that time and maybe they are giving medication for 2 months. And when they exhaust the medication, they continue as though the blood pressure does not exist or is not there. That's a big mistake. You've got to be checking. In my experience, there are 2 reasons, 2 conditions that reduce drastically the lifespan of Nigerians above the age of 60. High blood pressure and diabetes. If once we get more than almost half of Nigerians above the age of that 60 have either high blood pressure or diabetes. Almost 50%. And it's an epidemic. And
has it always been like this?
Well, yes. It's just that we were not picking them. With the advancement in technology and more awareness in healthcare stuff, so people are getting to know more. So it's a huge burden. And find out, I want you to start taking record from now. When you hear, oh, my uncle passed away, my friend's dad passed, my auntie passed, at 60 and above, find out. It's either that, oh, he slept, he didn't wake up, which he may have had a massive stroke at night and died, or he just slumped, or, oh, he had diabetes, they took him to the hospital, or one thing or the other. So because this has to do with the heart. And the heart and the brain are the 2 biggest organs in the body. And we will be as old as our arteries and our heart will allow us. The moment from the womb, the heart starts beating at around very early, about 1 month in the womb, the heart starts beating and it beats throughout life. Anything that would threaten the heart, even if it is to stop for 5 minutes, that's the end of life. So because of that, and diabetes and hypertension, these are the 2 things combining or even as acting singly can really threaten this cardiovascular system. So that's why if we're able to check diabetes and we're able to check hypertension, the life expectancy would just shoot up. Okay, now you know that it's manageable, it's not treatable. Yeah, it's manageable. So the groundnut oil you mentioned, is advisable? There's unsaturated fatty acid, then there's saturated fatty acid. The unsaturated fatty acid are the dangerous ones. How do you know them? When the oil is solid under room temperature, avoid such oil. Okay. So when we go to buy our groundnut oil in the market, there are some you will see. Even inside markets. Yes. Even inside markets, it's looking like ice cream. Cheese. Yes. And that's the one that is used mainly by these fast food people. And so before you are done, before it even cools down, you have eaten it. So you are taking a lot of unhealthy oil.
Wait, is it because is it cheaper?
It's cheaper. Yes, it's cheaper. It's cheaper. Yes, it's cheaper.
All right. The interview program today has been a real big eye-opener for me. Thank you, Dr. Tabo Kunle from Ogbomosho, Oyo State. And let's see what more we can take before we ask our own question. Please, at what age should I start going for my check on prostate cancer? Is it age 35, 40, or 45? Somebody is asking here. That's Haggai. And there's a writer. He says, you say that some people will not know that they are having COVID-19. And when they take malaria drugs, it will go away eventually. Can you explain further? Well, that's not exactly what he said, but then I'll leave you to...
I will explain that. Okay, so for the prostate, 40 is the cutoff. Anything above 40, we should check our prostate once in 2 years. But if there is a family history, let's say daddy or uncle had suffered prostate cancer, then the frequency of check should be more. Like the one that is no family history, you can check once every 2 years. But if there's a family history, you should check at least every year. Then the issue of the COVID-19, what I said simply is that many people have COVID-19 without knowing, because majority of patients who have COVID-19 would not even have serious symptoms. And many of the symptoms are like everyday malaria. But what differentiates is that you treat malaria and it's not going away. And then you say, oh, this malaria is resistant, this medicine did not work, let me go to another chemist to buy another medicine. And then you take it and it still didn't work. Eventually the COVID will not kill the person, because it's not the severe type. So eventually the COVID will go away on its own. But you may think, oh, it's the last malaria medicine that you took that took care of the malaria. So many people who have COVID-19 are arguing that these are the symptoms I have when I have malaria. Why are you telling me that I have COVID? The reason is because they have similar presentation. But for the severe one, eventually they will now develop more bigger complications, like difficulty in breathing, and maybe prostate. They'll just be weak, and some might die. So, but at the initial stage, it looks similar, and so that's why people are a little bit skeptical. That look, I've been having these things before. Why are you now saying that I have COVID? Because they have some similarities.
I have a question, Doctor. I've been following this avidly on the news. Has science been able to determine why it seems as if those in saner climes, or in this case to be more specific, America,
yes,
why it seems as if, is it my imagination, or are they having more deaths?
Yeah,
are they having fewer?
Yes, there are many postulations. Recoveries? Nobody is sure of what's going on, but there are postulations. One of it is that the parts of the world that have national policy on BCG, those who take BCG injections as a prevention for tuberculosis, they found out that the rate of severity and mortality is reduced in those areas. Then even the areas that have malaria, the malaria belt, their severity is low. And there are also many other factors that has to do with climate, that the tropical regions of the world, they seem to have less severe. But Brazil distorted that postulation, because Brazil is in the Amazon area around the equator like us. And that's why people are also afraid that we should not celebrate early, because we don't know what will happen. Brazil was just feeling cool when the thing hits them. So all those things are postulations. We don't know. But we watch and see what happens. But obviously, by statistics, in the West, Europe and the United States and South America, they have bigger impact in terms of number of cases and deaths than what we are seeing in Africa.
Who knows? Maybe diets might be playing a part too.
Probably. That's why it's called novel COVID, because there are a whole lot of things we still do not understand. Yeah. But I want to track it back to our homes, because I know you are a mom just as much as I am. And earlier on you mentioned a little bit of what mothers or parents do. I don't know, how can we begin to touch the mindset of parents to rejig our lifestyle? Because the thing is, I have always told people, I was telling you something behind the camera, children always pick what you do, not what you say. I recall when my kids, again I mentioned them, they were very young, my sister was with me, they came back from school, and I told them they should eat eba, so that they can take a lot of okra soup. So the last one they want to eat eba. She wanted something else. My sister insisted. And then my sister herself took soup and used a spoon, to just scoop and eat, because she felt she needed to watch a bit of her weight. But the children were made to eat gari and soup. The last one said, no, you are using spoon to eat your own, and you want me to eat this thing and throw it inside my stomach. I will not. I want to scoop my own too with spoon and eat. And my sister shouted at her to continue eating. When I came back, I tried to explain. You need all your energy, and it comes from the eba, not the soup anyway. But the point I'm trying to make, a lot of times what we parents do, we know it's wrong for our health, and we do it in front of children. Smoking is not good. You smoke in front of your children. You know that it is wrong for you to eat in the bed. You're battling with obesity, you're battling with health and all that, and then you're going to your bed to sleep, you carry chin-chin, popcorn, you play film in your room, you're popping it and you're eating, and children know. How then do we begin to tell them, don't do this?
That's a challenge that has existed from time, I think. Parents at the end of the day are first of all just regular human beings with our own flaws.
Yeah, regular human beings.
Yeah, with our own flaws. But I can only speak for myself. Like, for instance, this whole thing, if my parents were alive right now, they'd probably be rolling all over the place in shock. I was that child who would not eat healthy food. I loved cake, chin-chin. In fact, if you keep me in front of a healthy meal, there's going to be a meltdown. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And I got indulged in that, which was wrong anyway. I don't understand why that happened, because my mother was a nurse, and she knew me eating all those things wouldn't really help because I'm genotype SS. But I got indulged, with all those things. And well, thanks be to God, as an adult, I really don't have a sweet tooth anymore.
Yes.
I just don't. I can't. I already overwhelmed myself with it when I was small. So right now I look at cake and I'm like, In fact, it causes me stomach pain now. It's for real. I don't know why that's why that. But what I try to do is, overall, I try to live what I expect my kids to do. So, for instance, if I want them to be more involved with taking care of the house, I don't leave it all to the maid. I get up and get involved too. I've been trying to get them to take pride in things that are Nigerian, from music to art to this and that. I want them to divorce themselves from this mentality that white is better or Western is better. I don't agree with it, and I try to live it. And like you rightly pointed out, I think that's the best way. If parents can be more self-aware. Sometimes you're overwhelmed, you're tired, you're stressed out, and so on and so forth. And the last thing you're thinking about is how to be an example for anybody. But it's a big responsibility.
It's a big responsibility. If you're not ready to be an example, a role model, I'll just tell you, there's no need giving birth, because that's the first thing you have to do. This topic will certainly continue it next week. But on a wrapping note, I want to take a question from somebody. Says, Honorable Speaker from Umudike, Abia State, please, does obesity kill?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
It kills in many ways, because there are complications of obesity. See, your heart is as big as your fist. So even if you are like me, or you are 2 times my size, your fist does not get bigger. So if your heart will have to do the work of me or 2 times me at the same size, you know the implication. It stresses the heart. There are so many complications of obesity, and it also causes cancer. Even for this COVID-19, people who are obese, they die more than people who are not. So there are many factors that connect obesity with death.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor. We're not done. We'll be continuing this topic again next week, and we expect that we'll be more interactive, take more of your questions when that time. For the ones are here, as usual, we'll answer your questions off camera, while still looking forward to having you with us next week. Thank you, Devon Mom.
Thank you, Liz.
And thank you, Dr. Chris,
Thank you for
for
having
coming
me.
as always.
Thank you.
All right, the station is Nigerian Television Authority, and the program has been Conversation. This is where we say bye-bye. Live healthy lifestyle. No talk, sir, I don't tell you.